Okay, here we go. This should be working now. I'm so sorry, that was fixed, and for some reason, when I started, it is gone. And that's what you get. You get all the testing done, and then you're 100% sure it's going to work, and then you hit go live, and it all goes badly. That's okay. Welcome, everyone. I can hear myself now, so I'm going to take this out, and I will put this in so I can hear properly. Ah, wow. Okay. It is really hot in this room. It is 27 degrees outside, but I would say it's about 35 in this little room that I'm streaming from. And yes, it is very, very hot. So I'm just going to also try and fix this chat. Just give me a moment so we can see some chat coming up here, which is the whole point. And what have we got? No, we don't want to do that. God, it's my second stream, ladies and gentlemen. Second stream. I'm still ironing out the kinks. What have we got? Why isn't that coming up? Over here, we're going to go pop out chat. Let's come here. Oh, it's different every time. Great. And we want the chat border, chat background, and apologies. OBS can be, let's just lock all this, hey? Let's lock everything that I don't want to move. And then let's move this stuff around. Hi, Mon. Lovely to have you in for the stream today. Look, I think that's totally fine. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look terrible. Let's put that there. There we go. Let's get some contrast there. We want that to be readable, don't we? And let's turn that border off. There we go. That'll do. That'll do. Oh, so you can probably tell. Can't hear you, Benny. Oh, no. Okay. Let's get this caught up. Hello, hello. Oh, no. I can hear it on the... It's coming out, so apologies if you can't hear me, Kat. You should be able to. Let me know if it's still not working for you, and I'll make some adjustments. But that was working out of my phone, so I'm thinking it's working. That could also be, there's like a 30-second delay as well. So when I say something, do something, make a change, it takes a little while for people watching to pick up the change. So I'm hoping that I've been talking long enough for Kat to maybe drop another comment in and let me know if she can hear me. Yeah, so it has been a bit of a week for a lot of different reasons. I think my mental health has been the main one, but although I do want to be really open and honest about everything, and I feel that that's just the way that I'm actually going to be able to do this. If I start to sort of try and play a role or something. Thank you, Kat. Perfect. Glad to hear. You know, if I'm trying to be someone who I'm not, this isn't going to work. So I just have to be open and honest. And I think I'd like to start off the streams by, you know, just sort of recapping the period of time since the last stream, giving you any updates that might have occurred, and just talking about how things are going. Because I find, for me, that's really helpful. It's really very similar to what I might talk about with my psychologist. Obviously, I wouldn't live stream a therapy session, and there's lots of things that I would definitely not talk about here. But there's also quite a bit that I do wish to talk about, and I'm finding it a sort of cathartic process as well. So not to, I don't, the other thing that I want to be able to juggle is if things aren't going well, that the streams don't become too negative. I want people to enjoy themselves when they come here. I want people to interact and be stimulated, and I want it to be a really positive place. But I think sometimes I do have to just talk about how I'm feeling, and sometimes that's not great, and it's been the case this week, and I'm not really sure why. I have a few ideas. I think that the overwhelmingly positive reaction to the launch was so out of ordinary, I suppose, with normality, and all of this emotional energy and expectation that's been going on for so long finally sort of came out, and it left a bit of a vacuum, which after a certain period of time post-launch kind of collapsed back in, and it was filled with a lot of self-doubt and self-loathing and lots of negativity, and it was something that I wasn't really able to manage this week. It was quite overwhelming. Coupled with that, I have a bit of a dodgy back, and I had quite a sore back probably from about Wednesday last week, to the point where at Taj's therapy on Friday, I couldn't even participate. I really had to sort of protect myself. And I don't know if anyone has had back issues, but it's pretty all-consuming. There's not much you can do without things hurting or without you being conscious of it. And that wears you down after a little while. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad. I was still mobile, but it was one of those periods of times when sorry, I just had a message that lost my train of thought. Okay, excellent. I appreciate all the updates, Kat, by the way. It's wonderful. I've had periods of time where I've been, completely laid out for a few days. So that's always in the back of my mind. It's always a very sort of critical thing for the family unit. Even when I was working full time, if that happened, then, there's nothing I can really do other than rest. And that puts a lot of pressure on Liz, and it's hard on the family to keep things running. So I'm always playing it very safe. So a lot of discomfort for me last week, and it does affect you mentally as well when you're incapacitated like that. I think that I particularly feel a loss of sort of self-worth, and I feel guilty and all of those things, and whether or not those feelings are warranted, I still have them, and it's still something I need to work on and manage. So yeah, it was a rough sort of end of the week, and as I was sort of in the midst of this back issue and getting better from it, then Taj became sick with a virus, as he normally does. And yeah, when Taj is sick, it's all stations for us. It's inevitably a respiratory issue with lots of upper airway secretions, things that we manage quite easily ourselves, but for Taj it's very difficult to manage. He has a lot of trouble swallowing and clearing these, the mucus and the extra saliva and all of that stuff. I know, pretty gross, but spoiler, there's probably going to be some gross things that I talk about in terms of care for Taj. We're on high alert, which then increased when he seemed to, from somewhere, contract conjunctivitis, and that's the first time that's happened with Taj. So I got him out of bed on, I believe, Saturday morning, or it might have been Sunday morning, and his eyes were very swollen and caked shut. It was yeah, the poor little guy. He was clearly in a bit of discomfort, and he couldn't open his eyes essentially until warm compress cleared it up, and throughout the day he could sort of start to open his eyes, but essentially he had his eyes closed for a couple of days until we could sort it out. Had to do doctors, had to get prescriptions, got the eye drops in. He is so much better today, but last night he was having a lot of trouble with his dystonia. And his dystonia is sort of how his muscles are either really tight or really loose. So it's the tone of his muscles. And there's times when he becomes hypertonic, so everything's really tight, and he doesn't have much control over his limbs. And when things are happening like that, it's actually also happening internally, and things kind of get pushed up. He coughs a lot more, and there's just a whole other level of sort of management with Taj, with a suction machine, which is essentially just like a box which creates suction, and there's a tube, and on the end of that tube you put different size catheters, and you have to kind of like COVID tests, but like the deepest COVID test I think it's great that we're all a bit familiar now with what that kind of sensation is like. But instead of it going sort of like that, you only really generally suction this distance from your nose to your ear. And beyond that, it's referred to as deep suction. And sometimes we do have to go further down and get things which are a lot further down. I didn't really think we were going to get into such gross conversation, but I'm going there. Anyway, he was very, very hypertonic, and what we sometimes do is put a weighted blanket on him, which just helps kind of control the jerkiness, because if it's not a small movement, can then kind of go into a very large movement, which then goes into a really intense spasm for him. So that generally helps calm him down. We've given him extra medication, but things are still going crazy with his body. He did kind of cough and settle a little bit, but then I think at about midnight, I was just laying in bed about to fall asleep, and I just had this feeling that something wasn't right. So I went in and found him very, very hot. He was almost 40 degrees, which for any person is dangerous. For Taj particularly, who normally sits a lot lower with his temperature. So basically he just overheated, and that had got out from about 10 till 12. This had just really ramped up. So yeah, it was in a bad way last night. Almost 40 degrees. His heart rate was at 170. He was coughing a lot. He'd had a vomit. These are all signs where we would normally just be going to the hospital. Gave him some a lot of attention, and over a period of about 10 minutes, I got him back down to a manageable temperature. But we were on the verge of going to the hospital again, and we kind of always are. But these when he's actually showing us these numbers, and we look at him, we've become pretty good at telling when we need to get to the ED quick, smart. Thankfully, he calmed down, and thankfully today he's had a really good day. His eyes are all sorted out. Still got to complete the antibiotics, but they worked very well. And his infection, whatever it was, seems to have he's on the downhill slope now. So that's another sort of additional stress to the week, which has made things a bit difficult. And on top of that, my mental health has not been good. So it hasn't been a great week. However, I'm actually, now that I'm doing this live stream, I'm happy I'm here and I'm doing it, because I was considering not doing it tonight. And, I think that's just symptomatic of anxiety and wanting to kind of shy away from these sorts of things. But I'm not going to be able to control that all the time. So when I'm not feeling like it, I'm still just going to push through. And I know that once I get going, that things will start to be, feel a little bit more comfortable, and actually talking about it definitely helps. So I'm glad I've kind of got this space to do it. Whether or not people want to hear that, that's another story. But definitely give me a feedback, positive or negative. It's all good. Yeah, gosh, I am so hot in here. Thankfully, we are heading to cooler months. So as we progress through the through the year, I'm going to be wearing more and more layers of clothing. There's no heating in here. There's no cooling in here. I'm surrounded by asbestos, and this place is, well, this additional external office or bunker is probably around 30 years old. There's no insulation. I can't even crack a window. So it's pretty brutal. But winter, I can manage more. I can rug up. The computer pumps out a bit of heat, so I'll be fine. So, I guess there is benefits to delaying the launch until midsummer. Okay. So another thing I was, I guess, wanting to just put out there is, with the content plan, YouTube Shorts is something that I'm going to need to do to sort of play the game, play the social media game. I don't really like the short form video content. I definitely consume it, but it's mostly on Reddit. When it comes to things like TikTok, I've never used TikTok. All of my TikTok consumption comes via Reddit. And same with like Instagram, Reels and things like that. I just find that just that constant scrolling, you're really just trying to somehow shoehorn good content into that first sort of 3 seconds that someone's giving that video before they just scroll to the next one. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to go about doing the content for it, whether I want to, like I said, play the game and maybe try some different kinds of editing and different cadence of how I speak and custom thumbnails and try and be as sort of clickbaity as possible. Those things do well, which gets to a wider audience, which is exactly what I'm after, is sort of building an audience. But, whether that's bringing in the right kind of audience is another thing. So I'm curious as to, if you are watching short form content, what content resonates with you that might be applicable to us? Are there other sort of families or people with either disability or sort of environmental focuses that are creating engaging content? Another thing I was thinking was just to sort of grab little snippets from the live streams or from the videos that I've made and will make, and put those into the vertical format and put them out and just see how that goes. But I guess I'm seeking some advice, but I'm also putting a warning out that you might start seeing some YouTube short video content which might be a little out of it just might be a little out of left field in terms of the editing and all of that. And it might not even be too related to the Team Taj content. I'm just going to try some things. And that's what this initial period is really all about, is having that freedom to just try things. Getting used to this live streaming thing. I'm very uncomfortable right now, not just because of the heat. It's not a very natural thing for me to just talk. It's different if you're speaking with someone, or your chat is filled with people commenting. Just a big shout out to Hamish. I've just had a little message. How you doing, Hamdiggle? And yeah, it's something where you're constantly conscious of dead air, which is why we will probably be doing more interactive things, watching things together, and I'll be commenting on things like that. But yeah, I really just need to keep doing this and keep improving and becoming more comfortable being uncomfortable, and hopefully as I get better and the streams get better, more people will come and join. I think the main focus of what I wanted to talk about on this stream is going to be to try and outline this methodology that we're trying to develop, or hopefully this wonderful person that I've met through launching has already developed herself, and that we can just piggyback on that. But it's just trying to be a bit clearer about what we're going to be using as our system and our methodology to make decisions throughout the project, and trying to highlight things at that idealistic level. And as things come in, we'll probably have to refine the method quite a bit, and things are going to chop and change as we go around, and as we go through the steps of getting this space sorted out for us. So that's one thing, and another thing I wanted to start talking about, because it's pretty critical to the whole endeavor, at least the house component of it. I mean, I need to sort of reiterate that that is just our primary project. If this works out well and people find what we're doing valuable and interesting, then there's so much more that could possibly come out of this. So it doesn't start and end with the home for us. It's this is potentially something really big and long lasting for me personally, and for us as a family. But the decision about where we're going to be doing this needs to be made alongside and in parallel with creating this this idea and these specifics of what the home needs to feature, what components we need to absolutely nail in terms of the accessibility side of things and the efficiency side of things, and those sorts of decisions that we make, and the ideas that we come up with, and all of the wonderful things that will hopefully come out of this, they apply universally. So it doesn't necessarily mean, sorry, you can probably hear that train, and I realized that when I listen back to the stream that there's some audio that I need to fix up. But this will allow us to build the home that we need, or renovate the home to what we need anywhere. We were actually considering moving to the UK before we ended up buying here. We just had to get out of our rental, and we needed to go somewhere. So we put pretty much everywhere on the table. The UK was there because I'm a dual citizen, and a lot of my friends live there now. There's also wonderful hospitals and I don't know. Just my parents also, my mum specifically, would love to be back home in the UK. So there was a lot of talk around that, and then it was looking a bit too difficult for for such a big move for us. You know, we have to reestablish Taj's entire care team. We have to meet new doctors, pediatricians, therapists, what have you. It's a completely new system. You know, the NHS is good, but you know, we've already learnt so much about the NDIS, and we've already built so many great relationships that change seems a bit too much. So Queensland or Victoria was our two options, and we've decided here for now. That could change, and that's a decision that we have to make ourselves. But despite the fact that we're looking at two vastly different climates, the principles remain the same, and that should sort of be something I want to just really reiterate as much as possible. That building an efficient home is really just that. It's building an efficient home. You would make changes, and you would make, you know, you would tailor it to your environment that you live in, to the orientation of the block that you want to do. All of those factor in. But things like passive house, which I think I'll talk a little bit more about. I've spoken to architects even that consider passive house a sort of a northern hemisphere winter climate only type of a deal, and that's where it originated. But it's by no means exclusive to very cold climates. The same principles apply even in warm climates, and you will find that you need to use your sort of air conditioner less in summer, and you wouldn't need to heat the house at all in winter, and you'll still maintain, you know, comfortable living temperatures. And it's interesting that there are architects who, you know, I would hope are much more in tune with the I guess that efficiency side of things, but it doesn't seem to be a primary focus. I found that interesting, and I'd love to speak to some more architects, ones that both agree and try and implement these principles in their work, and also ones that don't, and just understand a bit more about why. Because I also don't want this to be a place where it's just like, oh, this is my thoughts and ideas and my opinions, and that is it. I want to be challenged. I want to change my mind along the way. I think that's really important. I think it's really healthy, and can apply to a lot of different aspects of life. So back to the location. We still need to decide that. And it's going to be a tough decision because it's really an emotional one. It's to be closer to family, and not having much family in terms of size. It's hard. It's hard to be so far away from them. It's hard to plan things and be in contact, and you know, we love them so much, and I wish that we could all just be together, but you know, selfishly I want everyone just to come to us. I don't think that's going to be the case. So I've got a very clear idea of what I want to do here on this block, but I might have to let that go and reassess things once we find a place that I think Liz is more comfortable with. I actually quite like it here, but you know, we're a team, and we've got to do things that are best for the team, not individually, and this is something I tend to get carried away with, like envisioning things, and once I've seen it in my head, I get really kind of like hyper focused on it and really into it. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough because you know, in a perfect world, I'd love to just put a carbon neutral, energy efficient, accessible home here, and then, you know, if we have to sell it, we sell it. I'm very much against sort of housing as a commodity. I think it's part of the reason. You know, it's just, to me, it's a problem. So I don't have aspirations to have a property portfolio or have a passive income from a home. It's not kind of like the way I look at things, but you know, some people would say that's very financially irresponsible. If you could do it, you should do it. Those are conversations that I think we'll have more of down the line, but it really comes back to a reason why there's some trepidation around building the home that I have in my head here on this property, and that really just comes down to whether or not it's an over investment in the property versus the land value, and there's a lot to break down there. There's a whole lot to break down there. But at a very high level, I guess I just don't agree with that. I think that there's almost like a responsibility when people are doing renovations and rebuilds, all that sort of thing, to be doing it much more with much more attention to what materials you're using and making things accessible. I'm gonna say that so much. I'm gonna start getting sick of saying that, but that's okay. I will continue to say sustainability and accessibility because I think they're very important, and that's the whole reason I'm here. I'm just gonna have a sip of this. So I don't want anything flashy. I just want the utility of the home to work for us. It'll be 4 bedrooms, so a bedroom for Liz and I, bedroom for Taj, bedroom for Elijah, and a guest bedroom. I want that guest bedroom to be multifunctional. I don't want it to just sort of sit as a bedroom and, you know, 80% of the year it's not being used. I think that if there is space that it needs to be, multi-use spaces are very good, but not that common. And obviously kitchen dining. I want some food production in the home. And I'm not talking about becoming farmers or doomsday preppers or anything like this. I think there's some wilder assumptions people make when people start talking about growing their own food or being self-sufficient or being partly self-sufficient. The problem that I've found, well, I haven't found because I've done none of the gardening list done at all. She's curated a very wonderful set of produce out in the garden, but it has just been such a difficult thing within the changing climate that we've had. Let's say weather in this instance. The weather in the last sort of year has been very different to normal, and winter went on a lot longer than we expected, and nothing really grows too well in the winter, or you can only grow certain types of things. Anyway, it's just very uncertain, and I have a lot of faith in being able to create a smaller footprint to grow in, but using technology to create higher yield, but also automation to reduce your upkeep and your time expenditure in doing it, because we could go down one pathway to, you know, like permaculture and these really wonderful ways of producing food and creating great space for us and the flora and fauna to flourish in. But it's a lot of work, and it almost it becomes your, it just takes over your life. And I don't really, I don't want that. And I don't think that can be expected of people to adopt either. So that's sort of another element to this whole project is, you know, if it can work within our life, I think that a lot of people will be able to integrate parts, or if not all of these things within their own, and be able to manage it with everyone's, you know, time commitments. Everyone's stretched very thin, and it's why we do eat Uber Eats so much, or grocery food, and buy vegetables which are wrapped in plastic, and you know, we go the quickest, simplest option, because a lot of the time, just that's what life demands. It's difficult to go that extra step, or multiple steps, or pre-plan, because that's just difficult. So I'd like to explore these things, because part of me knows it's going to be possible, and part of me knows it's going to be extremely difficult, and I kind of want to see where it ends up. I think there's a solution there that works, but it might just be, you know, combinations of things, rather than all eggs in one particular basket. So I'm really curious as to how that's going to play out, from the food production side of it. The house also needs to be energy independent. It's not off grid. That's another kind of assumption that I think people make, but I think you need to be energy independent. I think there's a lot of uncertainty around energy costs, and when you consider that you can essentially have, we do have all of the energy that we need coming in every day from the sun, solar energy and battery storage to me seem to make a lot of sense. However, if there are arguments against that, you know, whether or not battery storage isn't at a sort of production efficiency stage where the offset, or the long-term use of it actually is not more beneficial than existing or alternative technologies, then those are things that I want to find out as well. And that's where hopefully the wider audience will come in. And I think the best way to really get into this is to start putting out videos kind of exclaiming certain things, or putting a position down, because there's one thing that you can trust, is that if you are wrong, even if you're not, but if you've made a mistake, the internet will very, very quickly point that out to you. So I think I just need to start from a position somewhere, and then hopefully things work from there. But to me, it makes sense. Solar, battery storage. I love the idea of multiple renewable sources, whether it's geothermal or wind. That's going to be very location dependent. So those things are maybe not on the table for us, but I definitely would like to investigate that a lot more. And ultimately, this minimal build, the minimum viable build that will meet Taj's requirements and our requirements as a family, or would, you know, ultimately be completely not completely tailored to Taj, and therefore not, I guess, enticing for other people. So resellability, or you don't want to have this home that is just so tailored to you that only you can live in it. So if someone did want to buy it, then they would have to immediately renovate, make changes, all that sort of stuff. I don't want that. So that's where the universal design element comes in and all that. But anyway, my point is, I foresee this build being somewhere in the ballpark of $400,000 to $600,000. Now, we don't have that money, but we should be able to at least put that as our goal. And then the question comes from that: does the cost of the house plus what we've already paid for the land plus the current land value, does that whole amount preclude us from doing it here? Because the last thing I want to do is just build something for the sake of building, or renovating for the sake of making it more valuable from just a purely monetary perspective and have more enticing resale. Then I don't want to do that. I feel like that is, if we're gonna it may as well do nothing and just be done with it and go somewhere where we can make that equation work between the cost of the land and then the cost of the home. So I don't have any experience from that sort of financial, property, all that sort of side of things. So I'm hoping that there are people that might be able to give me a bit more of an idea about that equation. And when it starts to tip to the financially reckless point, because as much as I have these goals and this ideology, or these thoughts about, how we should probably change elements of how we're looking at the way we live, that we don't have money to be able to just experiment and try, or have a sunk cost into something that you're never going to see a return on investment. Because it's our family and it's just how the world works. And there's no safety net there if it doesn't work out. So it has to be done within realistic terms, but I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges. Is you can come up with all of the technologies and ideas and layouts, designs, integrations, technology, everything. You can have these blueprints, but us specifically, we have to find this balance where we, I guess we have Liz assured to enough of a degree to proceed, and me assured that it's not going to end up being, the opposite of what the whole goal is, if that makes sense. Because I feel like you can kind of build the accessible home and do it cheaply, but you're going to lose out on all of that benefit of the efficiency side of things. You could buy a volume builder home, house and land package, and then, spend an extra $50,000 ensuring that doorways are widened and all those sorts of things. But I don't think it's going to be able to reach the necessary levels to kind of truly give universal design, be an example of universal design, nor will it be able to truly be the efficiency level that you want. And in Australia, we use something called the NatHERS. NatHERS? Oh, I've got a link up here. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah. I'll get you off my mug, and let's go to this one, which hopefully should still work. Yes. And preview. Okay, brilliant. That's working. Yes. Here we go. Let's just. All right. Cool. So the nationwide house energy rating scheme, NatHERS, just rolls off the tongue. So this is like a standardized, regulated energy rating scheme, kind of like the star rating that you would get on an appliance. And it's there to be able to gauge energy efficiency of a home. It goes, 1 to 10. And in order to reach like a 10, you've got to be like pocket mulching and I don't know, like drinking your urine. Like it gets crazy. The amount of things that you have to do to achieve a 10 is, I think, like nigh on impossible, unless you're living out in the woods and you've built it from the trees around you, and like you know what I mean. Like it's crazy. I think a 7 or a 6. As a video. How about we watch this video? I haven't tried a video on the stream yet, so let's have a look.
Design is key to building modern energy efficient homes that are cheaper to run and more comfortable to live in.
Agreed.
The nationwide House Energy Rating Scheme, or NatHERS, has been guiding good home design since 1993. NatHERS is the most popular way of meeting minimum requirements for new builds in the National Construction Code. More efficient homes help reduce energy use and improve the reliability of the energy grid for all Australians.
The energy grid is something else entirely, but when I say energy independent, I still mean grid connected. But you should be able to, in an emergency, run your home for a few days just on your battery storage. You can feed energy back into the grid, although there are instances where companies are charging people to feed back into the grid because there's like a surplus, which seems crazy to me. Anyway, but yeah, I think that it's a very sensible thing to be connected to the grid, but I'm excited to learn a lot more about that.
Helping us on our path to net zero by 2050. NatHERS assessments provide a star rating out of 10 based on hundreds of factors, such as the home's construction, local climate, and orientation on the block. CSIRO Science drives software that estimates the amount of energy needed for heating and cooling. Just like the ratings for fridges and TVs, the higher the star rating, the lower your bills. NatHERS can improve the energy efficiency of your home during the design phase. Simple changes can significantly increase a home energy rating, improving comfort and saving money on bills. Appropriate shading on the western side of a home can be added, or the house can be rotated to face north to capture winter sun. More insulation could be used, and double-glazed windows could be added. A home
could be added. See, that's the thing that really grinds my gears. So in Europe, you cannot buy single pane or single glazed glass. You just can't buy it. The minimum is double glazed. And I think there's this assumption that because in Australia we live in a warm climate or a hot climate, you don't need it. But the glass in your home is the biggest transfer of energy in and out of your home. So it makes your house hotter having single pane glass. And it's just something that we've had here since, you know, since Australians started building lots of homes in weird styles from all the different countries that people migrated from, but there was never any attention paid to this sort of a thing. And even in the last sort of 20, 30 years, as new things are done elsewhere in the world, that it doesn't seem to be adopted here. It's crazy to me. So I think that, you know, something like, you could add double glaze. I think double glazed glass needs to be the minimum in Australia and probably around the world where possible in developed nations. And that's going to also help bring the cost down, because you can't double glazed glass in Europe. I don't know the exact figure, but it is substantially cheaper than it is here. It's not cheap here because people don't use it that much. So there's no volume, and you can't bring the cost down without the volume. It's crazy to me. Anyway,
Home energy assessment also helps you make decisions on energy efficient appliances suited to your family and local climate. A NATA's certificate shows an additional energy performance score out of 100. This includes hot water, heating and cooling, lighting, cooking and plug-in appliances, as well as pool and spa equipment. The rating considers energy used for heating and cooling and appliances minus energy generated from solar panels, building a useful snapshot of energy costs as well as greenhouse gas emissions. The updates to NATAs are also providing the framework for banks to offer green home loans and help drive demand within industry for the skills needed to focus on energy efficiency. Learn how NATAs is guiding the design of the next generation of Australian homes at NATAs.
Anyway, so yes, that's the NATO. So I would like to aim for a 9. So that's the goal. That's one of the goals. Now there's also other government resources, and it's interesting that, you know, these sites are not that easy to find, or they're not pushed very well. You know, I don't want to get too political, because I think that's a slippery slope, but, you know, I think there could at least be hopefully agreed on that, you know, in Australia there's been a fixation on fossil fuels. It's driven our economy primarily, and, you know, we are sitting on this very large, very sun-baked continent, which we could be really world leaders in solar energy capture, and also, you know, battery storage and creating a solar grid, or much more efficient grids, and less centralized grids as well. So there's, you know, if the points of failure don't affect such large swathes of the community. But yeah, this is an interesting resource that I came across, and it's actually quite good. It does give you some pre-designed houses, which you know, designed or have different designs within the overarching kind of design of the house for different climates and different orientations as well. It's a really cool site. It's a little, to me, it's a little underdone, but you know, things like passive design, that isn't passive house. I think that can get confused a little bit. Passive design is more integrating the site itself, any existing sort of thermal mass there, orientation, all of that. You know, where wind direction is primarily going. You know, it's things that aren't actively affecting the house's performance. passive house is all about air tightness, and essentially you're creating your home within an airtight membrane, and that gets cycled. All of the air within it gets cycled out a number of times per hour, and that's air is filtered and yeah. So it's a much more closed system. It doesn't mean that you can't open doors and windows and all that sort of stuff. That's another fallacy. But passive house, HAUS, is the certification standard for passive house design, whereas passive design is merely, orientation and, thermal masses and all that sort of, and climate and that sort of stuff. But it is really good. It's a really good guide for people that are just starting out, and it's got lots of different categories about all different materials and different designs and all that sort of stuff. But they actually have designs here, which, these really should be what that's a bit too local, but the Australian volume builders should be really doing this sort of stuff. And it's crazy to me that there isn't more of it, but these don't make as much money, so that's why they're not there. So let's have a look. Melbourne. I think I like the Banksia. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. This is a good graph. So 8.1 nat hers requires 54% less energy than a 6-star house. 29. It's interesting. So it's almost it's not a linear scale in terms of how much energy saving you're getting based on the star rating that you're getting, and that's why a 10 is so hard to attain on the nat hers. There's similar rating scales in different countries. I know that there's a British one because I remember it from Grand Designs, and I remember there was one episode where they tried to get the full 10 star or the highest rating, and it was extraordinarily difficult. There was so much additional paperwork that needed to be done, and literally everything had to be mapped out, from every component of the home to even how far materials are coming to get to the home, and how many people are on site, how much wastage there was from materials. And I hope to do something similar, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be at that level. But we do need metrics as we start to actually get into the home building, to find out and be able to assess whether or not it's been successful or not, and all of that. So these are really quite detailed. I want to get to the design. What? I could have sworn these came with... Oh, no, they come with technical drawings. That's right. Might be pretty boring for people, but these are really great starting points. I've used these a little bit to get some ideas, just to ideate. And there's another couple of home sites that I've looked at, because I just love starting from these floor plans, because it gets your mind really racing about all of the options, and it's great to see. Scale is something that's hard to keep visualize as you are imagining, these spaces. So having floor plans to really be the foundation of where you're starting your thought process from is good. Well, it's also good that's kind of obvious. But for me, this really helps me start to map things out, and you start to realize, oh yeah, in my head I haven't thought about the laundry. What do I do with the laundry? And I guess another element that I haven't really, let's just get off this a bit too deep, but that's a really great resource. It is yourhome.gov.au. And the other one is the natters.gov.au. Yeah, so I haven't talked about it too much yet, but it definitely is in line with, you know, universal design and all of these sustainable things that we're doing. But I kind of want to even, and I think that this comes with the universal design approach, but I mentioned laundry. It just kind of got me thinking, like, there are ways that we sort of lay out our homes and fill our homes with stuff, and how we interact with the items in our homes, that I think this needs to be at least revisited. And I think that's basically what I want to say. I think I want to have a sort of blank slate approach to everything, and not try and reinvent the wheel, but just sort of ask the question, you know, is this the best way that we can be doing this? Or are people doing this better ways? Have we missed elements of, or core elements of what makes home living easier, better, more comfortable, more, I guess, to have more options with the spaces that we occupy. So I want to approach things, yeah, from that sort of fresh start thing, and just see how things start coming together, and that may just end up looking like your standard home, and we may be at that point where things are where they kind of need to be. We're just not building them the right way, in so far as with the materials that we use. So that's one thing. Another thing that just came to my mind. What was it? I'm just going to change views while I have a think about this. So you're not staring at that screen. You can stare at my face. Yeah, okay, so there was one thing, and I thought it was going to be very poignant. Oh dear. What was it? It was another thing that I really wanted to talk about, or I really want to highlight as part of the process. Yeah, it's gone. It'll come back. Okay. This isn't it, but this is something that I did also want to discuss a little bit. And I don't really know how to cut through the bullshit when it comes to identifying which brands are legitimately doing the right thing when it comes to sustainability and operating ethically, and actually sort of adhering to their sort of social license to operate, or they are doing things well. Because there is so much greenwashing that it's hard to know if a company is being open, honest, and truthful, or just feigning it through marketing dollars. You know, I think I was trying to look up some earlier today, and there's this website that I came across, which is a Australian government one, called Climate Active, and these are their certified brands. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And it gets to like AGL, and Air BP, and Ampol. So I don't. It's certified for its opt-in petrol and opt-in diesel products. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean? Offering customers a certified carbon. See, this is the other thing with certification is, you know, there has to be an element of truth somewhere for these these certification bodies, and you know, brands which are being transparent. And I'm just not sure how to cut through that bullshit. I'm just not sure. I gotta be careful about swearing. I'm not monetized on YouTube anyway. I can swear away. Hope Hamish still isn't watching. Concurrent viewers 1. He's not watching. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to do it. I think the only way you can truly be certain is just through like a body of evidence that, you know, you have people that work there in all positions within the company up the ladder, you know, that it isn't just sort of bottom rung people who say, oh yeah, we're blah, blah, blah. But, you know, behind closed doors in the boardroom, it's, you know, they're not actually doing the right thing. So I'm not sure how to go about this. Now, the lady that I was speaking to has done this process, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what her methodology was. And, you know, you can only really do so much, and you can only be so sure before you kind of just commit, make a decision. But, yeah, I think that body of evidence is something that only doing initiatives like this, having forums and subreddits and things where, you know, people who do know can add to the conversation. And I guess if there is enough support, then you can have some assurance in trusting a company. And I want to be able to have a list of people, and there probably already is, but going to, you know, just that particular one. Let me open it back up. No. Okay, apparently. Where did the page go? Certified brands. There we go. I got you. Yeah, like I don't. Being a government initiative and having a government for a long time that has had almost zero attention to this sort of an issue. I am a little distrustful of this. Not completely. I'm sure there's a mix of great organizations and bad ones, like AGL. What else is in there? ANZ Banking. See, for me, some of these are going to be not legitimate. But there's going to be lists out there. There's going to be people that have champion brands that are doing good things. And you might be thinking, well, what's that got to do with houses? Well, I think that's another misconception is, yes, we are going to be focused on accessible home design. Yes, we're going to be focused on efficient, high performance homes, universal design, all that sort of stuff. But you got to put stuff in that home. And I don't think it really stops, and it shouldn't stop at what we're doing with the home. It really needs to be everything that comes in. Shout out Russell. Everything that comes into the home needs to pass this litmus test of requirements that meet sustainable at a minimum, and ideally, if applicable, accessibility. So I want to have something like this. I want to. Oh wait. You're probably not even looking at this now. Let's get back to the screen. Is it? Okay, yeah. Yeah, this list. I'd like to develop something like this. Or piggyback off someone else, or promote someone else's and feed them additional brands that we can up. There needs to be some centralized and trusted resource here that people could go to and have some confidence that the brands are doing, the brands that they want to support are doing the right thing. I actually have a really cool idea that I won't share on stream because I want to make a video on it. But as I was looking for this sort of guidance on, reputable, sustainable brands, there was so much that came up around the fashion industry. And I think that's pretty understandable and important because, fast fashion is a massive issue. Not just the environmental impact and just the wastage and all of that, but excuse me, just how horribly people are treated that make the clothes. And there's this huge disconnect between people that, and I'm guilty of this as well. Oh, that's what I wanted to, yeah. There is a huge disconnect around, all of the products that we buy and really what goes into making them. But, the fashion industry was a huge, it was like 90% of the search results were like sustainable fashion brands. I've lost my train of thought, but that's okay. We're still talking about the same thing here. Yes, so everything that comes in the home is going to be put through this test. And I like to see if that's even feasible for us. But again, blue sky on it here. We're blue sky. It's all blue skies. It's blue skies, baby. So what did I want to say? Yes, hypocrisy. I am a hypocrite. When it comes to this, I might be championing these ideas, but I have not implemented these ideas. I try to here and there. I've also remembered what I wanted to talk about earlier. I'm hyper aware of it. But man, is it tough. It's tough in a lot of different ways, down to, the time that you have available. And today I was out. I was really thirsty. I didn't take my water bottle with me. And the right move was to just wait until I got home, have a drink. But I was just, in that moment, I was just like so thirsty. So I bought a Coke Zero. And you might be thinking, well, no big deal. But I think that there actually is a big deal about that. There's a lot to unpack just from that kind of process of me. I wasn't in danger. I was just thirsty. And then at that time, I just wanted the dopamine. I just wanted to the fizziness, the coldness, the sweetness, and that's all just like, it's just, it's Russell, you're right. It's just there and it's in your face, and you've got this like primitive brain battling with this very, highly conscious brain, and you give in. And it's easy to forgive yourself for that because it is a very small, individually there's a very small thing, but as a whole, I think Coca-Cola is by far and away the world's biggest producer of plastic, even above Nestle and other, but these brands, I think that also incorporates all of their sub brands as well. Oh, that's something I wanted to. But yeah, I did that today, and I felt bad about it. But it's just a very clear example of, what would have been better is if there'd been more, public drinking fountain and, bubbler, or maybe even if I picked up another reusable container, and then I can, reuse that and add it to the other kind of, I think I've got 2 of these now, just because I've tried to, whenever possible, take this, and it's just building out those habits and understanding. Oh, that dropped went on my head. I think it's just understanding where some of these motivations come from a little bit more. But I wanted to, speaking of that Coke, yeah. The other thing I was, the hypocrisy. So, and it's not just that, we consume a lot as a family. You take the bin out every week and you're like, holy shit, it's a lot of stuff, just a lot of wastage. And, I drive a petrol car. We live further away now, so we drive a lot more. Recycling, we do, but ultimately, does anything actually get recycled? Here in Victoria, it's a bit questionable. I think we used to ship it all our recycling to another country to recycle, and now they don't want it anymore. So, I'd love to find out a bit more about that. But then, to another level, you've got recycling, which so the recycling symbol that you see on all of your plastics isn't actually it indicating it is recyclable. It's just indicating the type of plastic being used. It goes to 1 to 7 or something, and only 1 and 2 are generally able to be recycled in most recycling centers. Anything 3 or up, they can't. And yeah, you're just chucking it all in the recycling bin. So all of that's happening. We don't grow enough of our own food. We don't mind our energy usage as much, and we have I'm assuming it's coal, electricity from coal. And there's so many things that we could be doing. So I don't want to come from this position where I'm on my pedestal talking down. I think it's I'm someone that has realized something and just want to make some changes for the better. And I think my situation is something that I can hope find a way to reduce all of that, but still have a quality. It's not about sacrificing your quality of life and your creature comforts. It's about finding different ways to have those which aren't as impactful. Because there's this sort of knee-jerk reaction that someone hears, oh, you got to be more sustainable and eco-friendly, and then you're this barefooted, smelly hippie, and you don't have a TV or a phone, and you know what I mean? It's just this caricature of what I think that a socially and environmentally responsible person in 2023 actually can and should be. And it's unfair that the onus is put on the consumer. There's a whole other side of this that needs to happen at a government level and at a regulatory level. But I think there's still enough people out there doing the innovations and improvements to use more sustainable materials and improve their business workflows and supply chain stuff and all of that. You know, they're improvements are being made, and I just want to find them and I want to explore them, experiment with them. But I'm starting from like pretty much from scratch. I'm not coming from a place of superiority in any way whatsoever. But I think if I can make it work in my life with my requirements with Taj and just as a family of 4, with not a lot of time, if I can find ways to have these goals met and it be manageable, then that's a big win in my book. And I'm aware of things, you know, I think I've said carbon footprint a whole bunch in this stream and last stream. And yes, I am aware that carbon footprint is a marketing ploy from BP to push the guilt to the individual and ownership of this, a responsibility of this to the individual to move that attention away from the companies that are actually doing the bad things. I'm aware of it, but it's, to me, it's good. It's good in terms of awareness and how someone might look at it, and it's a good way to just summarize something like this: carbon footprint is, you know, 1 ton of CO2. The carbon footprint of this is half a ton of CO2. You know, it's a way that we can visualize cost that's beyond the dollar figure of something. And what did I want to do? What did I want to show? Yes, this is pretty cool. Now, I think this is a little out of date, and it's probably it's probably not 100% accurate, so but this is each sort of umbrella corporation and all of its subsidiary brands. And Nestle in particular is really, really bad. And I've tried to cut out Nestle products. I will occasionally have a Kit Kat. But I did find at Aldi an alternative Kit Kat, which was just as delicious. But anyway, these aren't even all of their subsidiary brands, but you kind of get the picture that, you know, you might say, oh, you know, there is a whole subreddit dedicated to shitting on Nestle. It's called Fuck Nestle. Great subreddit, by the way. But this, you know, you don't know really in the grocery aisle who owns the company that you're buying from. You might say, yes, I am. Yes, shame on me. Shame on me. You know, you get the point. You get the point. It's very difficult. It's very much stacked against the consumer, and unfortunately, it's also very much been put on the consumer to be better rather than the companies putting out the products. And that's another thing. I think I need to change that position. Let's come back here. Oh no. Let's go here. Oh, no. Let's go here. Maybe. Chat. Can I put chat there? Oh, hello. Okay. Just making a few changes. Chat's going off. Russell, you've got like 50% of the chat. What a legend. It is hot. It is hot. And I've been talking a lot. So what I might do is I might actually finish up soon. Because I am rambling. But that's okay. Just trying to think if there's anything else. Hey, thanks, Russell. It's a good transition, but I think it takes too long. So if I go from this one, be right back. Yeah. I think it just adds a little bit too much time. So if I want to, it's a big display. No. Oh God. Small display. Something has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong. Let's just come back here. Just go to the big one. Oh yeah. Let me just fix this up on the stream because how chat. Ah, so it's a fixed width. No, it's not. Whoa. Okay, so maybe I just need to make this chat background. I need to make this a bit bigger. Okay, that's good to know. Whew, I am sweating. How shiny am I? I'm probably pretty shiny. Okay, so here's what I'm coming at next stream. I'm going to I'm going to hopefully bring back the methodology that I can't mention her name because I just don't feel that's right for me to do on stream. I have to get her permission. But I'm hoping she'll either come on for a chat or she'll send me some of her information and I can start to utilize that in what the products that I'm searching for the home are going to be. And I'm hoping that, having done it already, that she will give me a very streamlined approach for that. But I'm sure there's going to be additional things that she's not looked into because she's done a sustainable design, not necessarily an accessible design. And there is also additional things that I'm probably going to want to look at. Like I said, with food production, taking it out of the garden and putting it within the home, or at least within some sort of a greenhouse where we can control the environment more. I know Russell who's on here is also in Victoria and does a bit of growing food and has had similar issues in terms of being able to manage pests and birds and things like that, eating fruit, just what you're limited in growing based on the temperature and the uncertainty of that. So I love that. I love the idea of it in terms of growing things within the natural environment, but I really feel that encapsulating that in a more controllable environment is going to make our lives so much better. And you're not going to waste hours and hours and hours of time and energy and have nothing to show for it at the end. It's trying to make things as efficient as possible from both time and energy standpoint, and then having good yields and using less chemicals as well to have to get rid of the peskies. And aquaponics is another huge part of that. I think I'll do a whole stream on just aquaponics and hydroponics, but it's hard to talk about hydroponics without everyone just defaulting to marijuana. It's hard, but hydroponic is just a way of growing plants in a controlled environment. So anyway, saying that I'm going to have this mad hydro set up at my home, I don't think it really comes across very well. So I think I need to clear things up in that regard as well. And there's a great Aussie YouTube channel that does aquaponics. I think it's Bob's Aquaponics. He's in Brisbane. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he's available for a chat too. Because as much as I love aquaponics, the implementation of aquaponics to me says that most people won't have it in their home or on their property. It's cumbersome. It's kind of like, you know, having like 3 pool pump type things, you know, large containers with PVC pipes coming out everywhere, and it's noisy. It's very DIY in these instances. So I'm just I'm in love with the idea, but I'm not in love with the execution, and that's where I think I'd like to see if I can find out whether or not it can be improved on. There was an Australian. I don't think it was Grand Designs. I think it was just on the ABC, but it was a home that they had integrated the aquaponics system into the house itself. So it was almost like having like a fish tank that went around the sides of the house. So you could be in the home and you could actually see fish swimming by, and they had a really long run to swim in. But those fish were fertilizing the plants that they were growing, and ultimately they were eating the fish. And that's what the aquaponics is all about. It's a closed system where you're growing vegetables and you're also growing protein there with the fish. And there is a range of fish that you can grow here in our climate and legally. There's some limits on what fish you can do, but a lot of them are very palatable, and to me that's a great way of maintaining your protein in your diet without having to go to meat-based products. That's another thing I'm going to have to cut out. I'm really not looking forward to that. But I've got to live it. I've got to live this ethos. I can't just talk about it. And I do love my mate, but that could get clipped out of context. Anyway, like when you guys live see, yeah. Except the fish aren't tied up and slowly dying while small children are tapping on the glass. It's always so sad in the seafood restaurants when you see that. Anywho, yeah, there's some really cool things here, and there's nothing here that I'm inventing by any means. I'm just trying to have a different take on the integration of all these different things, all these different pieces together, and adding some things together that might not be as commonly done as I think should be. So it's about marrying up all these different pieces of expertise and technology, and tried and true methods, lived experience of people, and then trying to create something that I really strongly feel that just should be standardized, and it's something that's going to stay affordable, and it should just be, it should be the minimum. We're not talking about insane dwellings with all the trimmings. It is just like, if you can live in a home that's efficient, power it with renewable energy, and take a burden of whatever size you can manage off agriculture and all of the supply chains that are integrated into that, then I feel like you're going to feel better, you're going to live better, and you are reducing your carbon footprint, which I know is a scam by BP. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. So thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to edit this down for a highlights clip. It'll be my first one. See how that turns out. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to put some YouTube short content out there. So be prepared. It's going to get weird. And next week, I'll also try and do 2 streams, see how that goes within the week planning. Sort of, I think I'm getting a little bit more comfortable rambling for an hour and a half, and eventually we'll get to multi-hour streams, and we'll be doing lots of different things. I'll start using this tech a little bit more and make it a bit more interesting. But yeah, appreciate your time if you stop by, or if you're watching this in the future. Good night, and I've got to come up with like a sign off. What could my sign off be? I don't know. How about that? I'll come up with a sign off for next week. How do I shut this down without ruining anything? All good. Okay. Hey Russ, I'll chat with you later. All right. Peace.